I never believed in life after death. As a doctor, I was trained to see the human body as a complex machine. When it stops working, that's the end. My name is Sarah Mitchell. I'm 42 years old, and I've been a cardiologist at Mercy General Hospital for 15 years. I've watched many patients die, held their hands as their monitors flatlined, and comforted their families afterward. But I never imagined I would experience death myself, let alone come back with a message that changed everything for me. Before I continue, please let me know where you're listening from. It would be nice to feel closer, even if we're physically apart. Also, don't forget to like. It will help this video to reach so many people who need to listen to this testimony. And leave a comment, share your thoughts about this near-death experience testimony. Let's have a fair and open discussion so we can learn from each other here on this channel. And don't forget to subscribe for more of this content coming your way. Enjoy listening. It happened on a Tuesday. I remember because I had been on call for 36 hours straight. A massive pileup on the highway had brought in dozens of critical patients, and our team had been working non-stop. I was exhausted but satisfied. We had saved 17 lives that day. As I drove home in the early morning darkness, my eyes grew heavy. Just for a second they closed. They say you don't hear the crash that kills you. That's true. What I remember is a flash of headlights, a sudden swerve, and then nothing, just darkness. And then light, not the harsh glare of hospital fluorescence that I knew so well. This was different, warm, golden, and somehow alive. It pulsed around me, through me. I felt weightless yet completely present. The pain was gone. The exhaustion had vanished. I felt more alert, more aware than I had ever been. I was moving without walking, drawn forward by some gentle force. Around me the light began to take shape. Trees, flowers, a path beneath my feet. Everything glowed from within. The colors were more vibrant than anything I had ever seen on Earth. A meadow stretched before me, filled with flowers that didn't exist in any medical textbook I had ever studied. Sarah, the voice came from everywhere and nowhere. It was inside my head and all around me, gentle yet powerful enough to shake the ground beneath my feet. If there had been ground, if I had still had feet. I turned, though I wasn't sure how, since I couldn't feel my body, and there he was. I knew him instantly, not from the Sunday school pictures of my childhood, or the paintings in museums. Those artists had gotten it all wrong. They had tried to capture divinity in human form, but the being before me was both more human and more divine than any artwork could convey. His eyes, that's what I remember most clearly. They held the depth of the universe and the intimacy of a close friend. They knew everything about me, every mistake, every doubt, every good deed, every fear, and loved me completely anyway. Jesus, I said, though I didn't speak with my voice. He smiled, and it was like the sun breaking through clouds. You weren't supposed to join us yet, Sarah, he said. Your work isn't finished. I looked around, suddenly aware that this wasn't just a dream or hallucination. The medical part of my brain searched for explanations: oxygen deprivation, neural misfiring, trauma response. But the truth settled over me with absolute certainty. I had died. This was what came after. Am I in heaven? I asked. You're at its threshold, he replied. A place between your world and mine. I wanted to stay. Everything about this place called to something deep within me. Here was peace. Here was purpose. Here was love, without condition or end. As if reading my thoughts. And perhaps he was. Jesus shook his head. Not yet, beloved physician. I'm sending you back. Back? The word felt heavy with disappointment. Why? He gestured. And suddenly we were no longer in the meadow. We stood, or existed, somewhere else. Below us, I could see the earth. Beautiful, and blue, and terribly fragile. Look closely. The planet seemed to zoom in like a divine satellite view. I could see continents, countries, cities, and then people, billions of them, each glowing with their own inner light. Some bright, some dimming, some nearly extinguished. They've forgotten, Jesus said, and his voice held such sorrow that I felt it like a physical pain. They chase comfort, power, distraction. They build walls instead of bridges. They look for meaning in things that cannot last. Even those who speak my name often miss my message. The view changed again, and I saw war zones, refugee camps, poverty-stricken neighborhoods, lavish mansions, built on exploitation, environmental devastation, human trafficking, addiction, hatred disguised as righteousness. I saw it all at once, and it nearly broke me. How can they not see? I asked. How can they do this to each other? The signs are all around them, he replied. Just as I foretold, nation rises against nation, famines, earthquakes, floods, false prophets who twist my words for profit and power, hearts growing cold with selfishness. The fig tree has put forth its leaves, yet so many are too busy to notice. I had never been particularly religious. My parents had taken me to church as a child, but medical school and residency had pulled me away. Science became my faith, measurable, testable, reliable. Yet standing here with Jesus, all my certainties fell away. I knew with unshakable clarity that what I was experiencing was real. What can I do? I asked. I'm just one person, a doctor who fixes hearts, but doesn't know how to change them. He smiled again, and love washed over me. That's exactly why I've chosen you, Sarah. You understand both science and compassion. You speak the language of reason, but know the limits of human understanding. You've seen both birth and death, and recognized the miracle in birth. He reached out and touched me, a touch I felt everywhere, in what would have been my soul if I still had a body. I am returning you to warn them, he said, to tell them that I am coming soon, just as I promised. The signs that my disciples asked about are unfolding. The birth pangs have begun. Time grows short. Fear rose in me, not of him, but of the task. They won't believe me. They'll say I had a hallucination from trauma. They'll diagnose me with confusion, hypoxia, temporal lobe epilepsy. Some will doubt, he acknowledged, but others are already sensing the truth. They feel the urgency in their spirits even if they cannot name it. Your words will confirm what they already know. What exactly should I tell them? I asked. Tell them to look around with open eyes and see the signs that were foretold. Wars and rumors of wars, nation against nation, famine, earthquakes, persecution, false prophets, the gospel reaching the ends of the earth, through technology, never imagined by my first disciples, Israel blooming as a fig tree after centuries of dormancy.
He paused, and his eyes grew more intense. But most importantly, tell them I am still the way, the truth, and the life. Tell them it's not too late to turn back to me. My arms remain open. My forgiveness remains perfect. My love remains endless. Another gesture, and I saw crowds of people turning away from darkness, choosing light, reconnecting with each other and with him. The vision gave me hope. Will I remember all this? I asked. Will I have the words? You will remember, he promised. And when words fail, my spirit will give you what you need. But Sarah, his expression became solemn. There is a cost to being my messenger. Some will mock you, others will hate you. You will be called crazy, misguided, even dangerous. Your professional reputation may suffer. Are you willing? The question hung between us. Was I willing to risk everything, my career, my reputation, my comfortable life, for this message, for him? Looking into those eyes that held the universe, I found I couldn't refuse. I'm willing, I said. He smiled once more. Then go with my peace, and remember, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. I felt myself being pulled backward, away from his presence, away from the light. Darkness enveloped me again, and then pain. Terrible crushing pain in my chest. Beeping machines, urgent voices. She's back. We've got a rhythm. I gasped, choking on the tube in my throat. My eyes flew open to the harsh hospital lights and the shocked faces of my colleagues, the same doctors and nurses I had worked alongside for years, now fighting to save my life. Dr. Wilson, the chief of emergency medicine, leaned over me. Sarah, can you hear me? You're at Mercy General. You were in an accident. I tried to speak, but couldn't around the intubation tube. My hand flew up, trying to communicate the urgency burning inside me. Later, they told me I had been clinically dead for nearly 4 minutes. My heart had stopped completely. By all medical understanding, I should have suffered brain damage from the lack of oxygen, but my brain scans were perfect. Better than perfect,
According to the neurologist who examined me, it took 3 days before they removed the tube, and I could speak. My first words were, "I need to tell you what happened." Dr. Wilson patted my arm. "The accident, don't worry about that now. The other driver is fine, just a broken wrist. You took the worst of it." "No," I insisted, my voice raspy from the tube. "What happened when I died?" His expression changed, became carefully neutral, the face we doctors use when patients say something concerning. "Sarah, you experienced trauma. Your brain was oxygen deprived. It's very common to have vivid dreams or hallucinations in those circumstances." "It wasn't a hallucination," I said. "I was with Jesus. He sent me back with a message." There it was, the flicker of worry in his eyes. My colleague of 15 years was now questioning my mental stability. It was exactly as Jesus had warned me. Over the next weeks of recovery, I told my story to anyone who would listen. My parents, my sister, the nurses who cared for me, the physical therapist who helped me regain my strength. Some humored me, some avoided eye contact. A few listened with genuine interest. One nurse, Esther, took my hand and whispered, "I believe you. I've been feeling it too, that something big is coming." 6 weeks after my accident, I was cleared to return to work. The hospital administration suggested I take more time, perhaps see a therapist to process my trauma, but I was determined. My hands were steady, my mind was clear, and most importantly, I had a promise to keep. On my first day back, I had 7 patient consultations scheduled. With each one, after discussing their cardiac issues, I found myself adding something personal. "Have you noticed the signs?" I would ask. "The world is changing rapidly. These aren't random events. They were foretold thousands of years ago." Some patients looked uncomfortable. Others seemed curious. One elderly man named Robert gripped my hand and said, "I've been telling my grandkids the same thing, Doc. The Lord is coming back. We need to be ready." By the end of the week, I was called into the hospital director's office. "Sarah," Dr. Hammond said, not meeting my eyes, "we've had some complaints. Patients feel you're proselytizing. You know our policy on religious discussions with patients." "I'm sharing critical information," I replied. "As a doctor, if I notice symptoms of a serious disease, I'm obligated to warn my patients." "This is no different," he sighed. "It's very different, and I think you know that. Look, we all understand you went through something traumatic. No one would blame you for taking more time off." I recognized the thinly veiled suggestion, "Stop talking about this, or don't come back." That night I cried for the first time since my return. "I'm failing," I whispered into the darkness of my apartment. "No one is listening. I don't know how to do this." In the silence, I felt rather than heard the response. "Start where you are. Use what you have." The next morning, I called in sick, but instead of staying home, I went to my computer and started writing. I wrote about my experience in detail. The light, the colors, the meadow, his eyes, his voice, every word he had spoken to me. I wrote about the signs he had pointed out: wars, natural disasters, moral decay, technological advancement, the restoration of Israel. I connected these to current events, to headlines anyone could verify. I created a simple website and titled it "A Cardiologist's Journey Beyond Death." I used my real name, included my medical credentials, and posted my story. At first, nothing happened. A few visitors, probably friends or colleagues checking out of curiosity. Then someone shared it on social media. A reporter from a local news station emailed, asking for an interview. I said yes. The interview aired on a slow news day, tucked between a story about a charity fundraiser and the weather report. I spoke calmly, clinically, describing my experience as I would describe a medical procedure. I didn't rant or make wild predictions. I simply shared what I had seen and what I had been told. By morning, the clip had gone viral. My inbox filled with interview requests, national news networks, talk shows, podcasts, religious programs. My phone rang constantly until I turned it off. Reporters camped outside my apartment building. Dr. Hammond called. "The board is meeting tomorrow to discuss your situation," he said stiffly. "In the meantime, we're suspending your clinical duties." I had expected this. It still hurt. For the next several weeks, I accepted every legitimate interview request I could. I spoke to skeptical news anchors, sympathetic religious hosts, curious podcasters, and hostile debunkers. Through it all, I told my story exactly the same way each time. I didn't embellish or backtrack. I answered questions honestly, including admitting when I didn't know something. "Why you?" a particularly aggressive interviewer demanded. "Why would Jesus choose a doctor who rarely even attended church? Doesn't that seem convenient?" I asked myself the same question. I admitted, "All I can say is that perhaps my scientific background makes me an unlikely but credible messenger. I'm risking my career and reputation to share this. What would I gain by lying?" Letters poured in, thousands of them, people sharing their own spiritual experiences, their fears about the state of the world, their renewed faith after hearing my story. A group of medical professionals formed a support network, doctors and nurses who had similar experiences but had been afraid to speak up. Not all reactions were positive. My car was vandalized with the word LIR spray painted across the windshield. I received death threats. Former colleagues published articles debunking near-death experiences as mere neurological phenomena. One particularly painful editorial was written by Dr. Wilson, detailing my concerning psychological decline following trauma. Through it all, I kept speaking, kept sharing. I accepted invitations to churches, universities, community centers, anywhere people wanted to hear my story. I didn't ask for money. I didn't start a ministry or claim special authority. I simply delivered the message I had been given. The signs are here. Jesus is coming soon. It's not too late to turn back to him. He is waiting with open arms. 1 year after my accident, I stood before an audience of thousands in an arena that had been rented by a coalition of churches. Looking out at the sea of faces, people of all ages, races, backgrounds, I felt humbled by how far the message had spread. "I'm not special," I told them. "I'm just a doctor who died and came back with a reminder of what many of you already know from Scripture. The signs are all around us. Creation is groaning. The world is experiencing the birth pangs that precede new life." I touched the scar on my chest from where they had cracked my ribs doing CPR. I lost everything I once valued: my career, many of my friends, my professional standing, and yet I've gained something far greater: purpose, clarity, peace in the midst of turmoil. I looked out at the crowd, making eye contact with as many people as I could. I don't know exactly when he will return. He didn't give me dates or times, but he made it clear that the hour is drawing near, and that those who have eyes to see can recognize the season we're in. A young woman in the front row raised her hand. "What should we do to prepare?" I smiled, feeling his presence with me as I had so many times since my return. "Love God, love each other, speak truth, show mercy, live as though today might be the day you see him face to face, because it might be, and remember his message to me, which is also his message to you. It's not too late. He is ready to accept anyone who turns to him." As I spoke those words, the lights in the arena seemed to grow brighter, though I knew it was just my imagination, or perhaps my memory of that golden light that had surrounded me when I died. Either way, I felt peace wash over me. My message is not to scare you, but is to encourage you on the right path. If my testimony has inspired you, and you want to see more of this Testimonies, please kindly like this video and subscribe to our channel, and please don't forget to share to your loved ones. Until next time, remain blessed,